Have you ever felt that empty pit in your stomach when you see the woman you like smiling at someone else? Have you wondered why you always end up being the confidant while she goes off with a jerk who barely appreciates her? You're about to discover something that challenges everything you thought you knew about female desire. There's an ancient dance between bodies and minds. A silent game where most men follow rules that never worked, while a few know the secret moves that transform attraction into obsession. I'm not talking about deception or manipulation, but something deeper. The code only 3% of men know and apply. If what I'm saying has already made you think like this right now, because what I'm about to reveal can completely change your life. This isn't theory. It's knowledge distilled from centuries, from Machiavelli to modern neuroscience. Let's enter this labyrinth together. Let's be ruthlessly honest with yourself. You've tried everything, right? You bought that expensive cologne thinking the scent would give you confidence. You tried to impress with costly gifts, believing that money buys affection. You were that super attentive guy who responds to messages immediately because you thought constant availability was synonymous with genuine interest. And where did all that lead you? Straight to the friend zone, to that emotional limbo where good intentions turn into romantic invisibility. The brutal truth is that you were programmed to fail from the start. Society, romantic movies, even your own mother, they all taught you the wrong way. They told you to be gentle, polite, respectful. And don't get me wrong, these are important qualities for being a good human being. But alone, isolated from other more primitive and powerful elements, they don't create that unstoppable attraction that makes a woman unable to get you out of her mind. Do you know what does create it? Tension, mystery, a little calculated danger that activates her deepest instincts. Think with me for a moment. Why does that guy who isn't even that handsome manage to conquer them all? Because he possesses that unshakable confidence that makes women gravitate around him like planets around the sun. He understands something fundamental that you haven't grasped yet. Seduction doesn't happen in logic. It doesn't unfold in the realm of rational conversations and convincing arguments. It happens in instinct, in the subconscious, in those primitive layers of the brain where decisions are made before the conscious mind even realizes it. Do you think women consciously choose who they fall in love with? Of course not. It's their primitive brain that decides, that ancestral part that comes from caveman times when survival depended on choosing the right mate. And that brain doesn't care about flowers or expensive dinners. It's not moved by romantic gestures taken from movies. It cares about signals of value, social dominance, and protective capability. Now, before you think I'm telling you to become a caveman, relax. It's not about being rude or disrespectful. It's about understanding the ancient dance between bodies and minds that occurs in seduction. It's about activating the right triggers at the precise moment, about striking those emotional chords that resonate at frequencies most men don't even know exist. I spent over a decade studying this, testing it on the battleground of human interactions, observing what works and what miserably falls apart. What I discovered goes against everything preached by relationship experts who flock, selling sweet but ineffective advice. Do you want to know the secret nobody tells you? Women don't want a man who is always available, who is there every time they snap their fingers. They want a man who has options, a man who doesn't need them to feel complete. Paradoxical, isn't it? The less you need her, the more she will desire you. It's a contradiction that defies all romantic logic, but it's a psychological truth as solid as the laws of physics. But how do you demonstrate this without becoming an insensitive jerk? How do you create that aura of disinterested interest without seeming fake or calculating? That's exactly what the system I'm about to reveal will teach you. These are 4 fundamental pillars that will transform you from an ordinary guy into an attraction magnet. Pay attention because what's coming is pure gold, distilled from years of observation and practice. And here's the interesting part. This method doesn't work because it's manipulative. It works because it's authentic at its core. It works because it unleashes the true man within you, the one modern society has tried to suppress, label as toxic, and bury under layers of conditioning. When you truly understand it, you realize you're not learning to be someone else. You're remembering who you really are. What you're about to discover isn't for everyone. Many will hear it and keep doing exactly what they've always done, hoping for different results. But you're not like most. You're here because you know there's something more, because you sense there's a secret code in human interactions that no one has taught you. And you're absolutely right. Prepare to step through the looking glass and see the true face of female desire. Not as you've been told it is, but as it really is. Raw, primitive, sometimes uncomfortable, but always true. Are you ready to begin this journey? Because once you see the truth, you won't be able to unsee it. The first pillar is the movement. Seduction doesn't start with a simple, polite hello that vanishes into thin air without a trace. It starts with a break, a fracture in the expected, a spark in the silence that awakens something dormant in her. Forget everything they told you about traditional introductions. Forget that robotic, "How are you?" that dies the moment it's uttered and immediately classifies you as just another interaction in the crowd. The first move isn't about being nice or harmless. It's about taking control of the emotional rhythm from the very first second, establishing that you are not just another in the herd of predictable men who approach her with the same worn-out lines and approaches she's heard 1,000 times. Imagine approaching her, but instead of being predictable like everyone else, you say something like, "You look like someone who hates superficial conversations, but secretly loves chaos." In that moment, something changes in her expression. She pauses, blinks. Her brain activates like an engine that just received high-octane fuel. Why does this happen? Because you've interrupted her automatic pattern, that mental filter that's programmed to automatically dismiss generic men who approach her. In that instant, you are no longer one of them. You have made her curious, and curiosity is the gateway drug to desire. This is what most men never understand. The first sentence is the foundation of the whole game that comes next. It's like the opening move in chess. It sets the tempo for the entire match. It defines the emotional battlefield. If you open weakly with something common and predictable, you've already put yourself on the defensive. You'll spend the rest of the interaction chasing her, trying to regain lost ground. But if you open strong with something unexpected, poetic, or slightly absurd, you gain the frame advantage. Now she's in your world, playing by your rules. This is movement. It's not about exactly what you say. It's about how sharply you cut through the everyday noise. It's about projecting a clear psychological signal. I'm not here to impress you out of desperation. I'm here to see if you're worth the game. And this isn't just verbal, it's energetic. It's your tone, your timing, the deliberate calm in your speech, that slight smile as if you already know how this whole thing is going to end. Men who approach with high-frequency, predictable phrases are dismissed by her subconscious in seconds. But a man who walks with a sense of controlled unpredictability, he becomes a question she wants to answer. Never forget this. Women are attracted to what they don't immediately understand. So be the enigma, be the disruption, be the man who speaks not to impress with pretty words, but to provoke something inside her that she'd forgotten she could feel. When your first move makes her pause and think, the game is already yours. And here's something crucial that few understand. This disruptive move must be authentic. If it sounds like a memorized line, if it doesn't flow naturally from who you are, it will fail miserably. Authenticity cannot be faked. It must arise from a real place within you. That's why pickup artists who memorize lines have initial success but fail in the long run. The woman can feel the difference between a man repeating a script and one who speaks from his truth. Have you wondered why some men seem to magnetize female attention with no apparent effort? It's not because they are the most handsome or the richest. It's because there's something in how they move through the world that communicates, "I have something you haven't seen before." This is movement in its purest form. It's an energy that precedes even words. Think of the great seducers of history. What did Casanova, Lord Byron, or Don Juan have in common? It wasn't their appearance. It was their ability to create unique moments, singular experiences that women couldn't find with any other man. They were artists of disruptive movement, masters at breaking patterns and creating new ones. When you practice this first pillar, you start to notice an immediate change. Women look at you differently. It's not your imagination. It's because they are no longer classifying you in the average man category, where they put 95% of the men they meet. You've activated her radar. You've awakened her curiosity. You've initiated the game on your own terms. And this is just the beginning. Disruptive movement opens the door, but what comes next is what truly solidifies the attraction. However, without this crucial first step, nothing that follows would matter. It's like trying to build a skyscraper without a foundation. No matter how much you invest in the upper floors, everything will eventually collapse. The second pillar is the attitude. This is where the entire foundation of attraction begins to harden into something unbreakable, something untouchable, something extraordinarily rare in the modern world. Confidence is not what you say, it's what you don't need to say. You see, she perceives everything before you even open your mouth. She reads your essence. She observes how you sit, how long you maintain eye contact, whether your presence fills the room or begs for space. True confidence is silent. It walks without announcing itself, speaks slowly, moves with certainty, and above all, does not fear loss. That is the attitude you need to embody. I don't need you, but I'm not afraid of you either. This is the posture that flips the entire power dynamic on its head. And once you learn it, she starts qualifying herself to you, instead of you having to prove your worth to her. Let me make it visual so you understand it completely. Think about the last time you walked into a car showroom. The salesman who stalked you, who clung to you like a shadow, who kept asking, "Do you like it? Do you want to test drive it?" What do you think? He radiated a desperation you could smell, and you instantly had the upper hand because his need diminished his value in your eyes. Now imagine another salesman. He greets you calmly, elegantly shows you the car, then quietly withdraws. He knows what he's offering. He knows that you will feel it if it's right for you. Suddenly you feel the need to prove you are worthy of the deal. You start asking questions. You start justifying your interest. It's exactly the same in seduction. When you show that your life is complete, rich in purpose, full of joy, anchored in strength, with or without her, you become the prize, not the desperate hunter, not the emotional beggar who begs for attention. And women don't chase men they pity. They chase men they respect, men who represent something they wish to achieve or experience. How do you radiate this attitude through your body? Because words lie, but energy never lies. Shoulders relaxed, but strong. Erect posture that speaks of dignity. Unwavering eye contact that doesn't apologize for existing. Slow and steady breathing. Precise and intentional movements, as if you own time itself. No shaky hands, no nervously bouncing legs, no fast, anxious speech. You speak as if you trust your silence because studies show that over 90% of communication is nonverbal. She doesn't just hear you, she feels you in every fiber of her being. And if your energy says, "Please love me," she will pull away even if your words say something completely different. But if your presence says, "You are welcome to join me, but I will not bend for approval," she leans towards you because detachment is intoxicating. It's addictive. It's what most men never manage to convey. This is the paradox that changes everything. The less you seek validation, the more your value multiplies in her eyes. So remember, don't chase her attention. Chase your own inner power, because when a man becomes magnetic from within, everything outside begins to orbit around him as if he were the gravitational center of his own universe. And here comes the hard part that very few men are willing to face. This attitude cannot be faked for long. It must be real. It must arise from a genuine sense of self-worth that doesn't depend on external validation. This means doing the inner work. It means developing your purpose, cultivating your passions, building a life that makes sense to you, with or without a romantic partner. Machiavelli understood this perfectly when he wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both." In the context of attraction, this means it's better to be respected for your self-sufficiency than adored for your constant availability. Respect creates a solid foundation for authentic desire. Adoration without respect quickly turns into contempt. Have you noticed how the most desirable women often end up with men who seem indifferent to their beauty? It's not a coincidence. These men possess the magnetic attitude we are discussing. They are not easily impressed. They don't place the woman on a pedestal. They treat her as an equal, sometimes even with a slight challenge, as if saying, "Your beauty is nice, but I need to see what else you have to offer." This attitude creates a void that she feels the need to fill. While all the other men are falling at her feet, you are evaluating her. This completely reverses the usual dynamic and activates her desire to prove herself to you. Suddenly, she's the one wondering, what does he think of me? Does he really like me? What can I do to impress him? When you master this pillar, something extraordinary happens. You stop chasing and start selecting. You are no longer the desperate hunter who accepts any crumb of female attention. You become the selector, the one who evaluates, the one who decides if she meets your standards, not the other way around. And paradoxically, This selective posture is precisely what women find irresistible. The third pillar is strategic neglect. This is the most counterintuitive of all. The seductive art of stepping back right at the peak of connection. Not because you don't care, but because you understand one of the most powerful truths about female desire. Nostalgia creates obsession. The void generates desperate longing. You know that perfect moment when the conversation flows effortlessly, when smiles come naturally, when she's completely present with you, engrossed in your presence, hanging on your every word. That's not the time to push forward and squeeze every last drop of that connection. That's the time to leave, to disappear, right when everything feels most alive and promising. Yes, exactly, at the highest point, just when it feels most electric and full of possibilities. You simply say, "I'd love to stay longer, but I have to go. Let's continue this another time." What happens next isn't logical. It's completely chemical and primitive. Her brain releases a significant amount of dopamine, and then you disappear. You've just become the episode that ends on a cliffhanger, the song that cuts off at the best part, the book that closes just as the plot gets interesting. Think about the last addictive series you watched. It didn't explain everything, didn't resolve every plot line. It left you hungry for more. That's what you must become. Not the 3-hour movie that drags on until everyone loses interest, but the tense, suspenseful episode that leaves her breathless and counting the days until the next season. This means you don't respond the moment she texts you. You don't answer every call as if you're waiting by the phone. You live your life. You move through your world as a man on a mission, a man who has options, purpose, his own gravity. Because when she notices your absence, her emotional radar activates in a way she cannot control. Where are you? Who are you with? Why haven't you responded? And in that moment, she's not just thinking about you, she's feeling you. Now you're looping in her mind, replaying your voice, rereading your last text as if it's a secret code she needs to decipher. This is the crucial shift when she starts chasing, not out of strategy, but out of tension, unresolved emotion, craving for resolution. That's what most men never understand. They stay too long, respond too quickly, eliminate all tension, and in doing so, kill desire in its cradle. But you will learn to gracefully withdraw, to leave her with a taste, not the full meal, to create silences that resonate louder than words, because that is the most beautiful and cruel paradox. The less she has of you, the more she will need you. This isn't blind arrogance, it's not calculated manipulation. This is pure psychology masterfully applied, and the man who masters it doesn't chase like a desperate predator. He attracts by letting go, he pulls by releasing, he conquers by withdrawing at the perfect moment. And here arises the inevitable question. Isn't this playing with her emotions? Isn't it manipulation? The answer is clear. No, if you do it authentically. You're not pretending to have a busy and purposeful life. You genuinely have one. You're not pretending you have other priorities. You genuinely have them. You're not acting as if you could live without her. You genuinely can. This strategic neglect is simply the external reflection of an internal reality, that you are a complete man on your own, with a rich and meaningful life that existed before her and will continue to exist with or without her. It's not a game, it's a lived truth, and women can feel the difference. Machiavelli profoundly understood this principle when he wrote, "Men should either be caressed or crushed." In the context of seduction, this means you must alternate periods of intense attention and deep connection with periods of calculated absence. This contrast creates an irresistible emotional roller coaster, far more potent than a constant, predictable presence. And here comes another insight that few men understand. Physical absence is not the only thing that matters. There is also strategic emotional absence. Even when you are physically present with her, you don't give away your entire self. You don't reveal every thought. You don't express every emotion. You keep parts of yourself in reserve, creating a mystery she wants to unravel. Because deep down, we all long for what we cannot fully possess. We crave to discover the unknown, to conquer the unconquerable. Women are no different. When they feel there are aspects of you they haven't yet explored, dimensions of your personality that remain hidden, they are instinctively drawn to keep digging, to keep searching. This is the essence of strategic neglect, to create spaces, voids, mysteries that she feels the impulse to fill and resolve, not out of cruelty, but because you understand that desire flourishes in distance, not in saturation. It flourishes in the pursuit, not in complete possession. It flourishes in doubt, not in absolute certainty. The man who masters this pillar becomes a presence that she feels even in your absence. He becomes a recurrent thought, a persistent energy that dwells in her mind even when he's not physically close. And that kind of psychological presence is infinitely more powerful than the mere constant physical presence that most men offer. The fourth pillar is audacity, taking the initiative and escalating the interaction when necessary, without doubts that paralyze you. This is the moment of truth where most men fail miserably, where all the previous pillars collapse if you don't have the courage to act. You created attraction, built emotional tension, played the game of detachment. Now you need to act decisively. And this is where fear rears its ugly head. The fear of rejection, the fear of ruining everything you've built, the fear of being seen as invasive or inappropriate. But let me tell you a secret that will transform your perspective forever. Women want you to take the initiative. They fantasize about a man who knows what he wants and isn't afraid to go for it without apologizing for his masculinity. Almost no one realizes this, but hesitation kills more opportunities than rejection itself. When you feel the moment is right, act without asking permission, without asking if you can. You read her signals and move forward with the confidence of someone who understands the silent language of desire. It could be taking her hand while walking. It could be pulling her closer during a conversation. It could be that kiss at the perfect moment when silence speaks louder than 1,000 words. Calculated audacity is what separates men from boys who play at being men. It's what makes her mention you to her friends the next day. It's what creates impactful memories she can't forget even if she wanted to. Are you ready for this level of intensity and commitment? Now I know what you must be thinking, and let's clarify it once and for all. This is not manipulation in the toxic sense of the word. It's not being a heartless jerk. Manipulation is when you lie, deceive, or do something against her will. What I'm teaching you is exactly the opposite. It's about being authentic in your masculinity, understanding what truly creates attraction, and acting accordingly with that understanding. Think with me. When a woman puts on makeup, chooses a beautiful outfit, wears a special perfume, is she being manipulative? Of course not. She is presenting herself in the best possible way. She is using tools to become more attractive. That's exactly what you're doing, using psychological tools to awaken genuine attraction. It's not about deceiving anyone or creating a false persona. It's about being the best version of yourself, the most authentic and powerful. And let me tell you something few men know. Women want to be seduced. They dream about it. They read books about it. They watch movies about it. But they want to be seduced by a real man, not an insecure guy who apologizes for existing, not a man who is afraid of his own shadow. They want to feel that shiver in their stomach, that tension in the air, that game of glances that says more than 1,000 empty conversations. And when you master the secret code I'm revealing, you become that man. You become the guy they can't get out of their head, the mystery that keeps them awake thinking. Remember that chess metaphor I mentioned at the beginning? Every interaction with a woman is a game, and while most men play defensively, afraid of losing the queen, you'll be 3 moves ahead. You'll know when to advance, when to retreat, when to sacrifice a piece to win the entire game, and most importantly, you'll play to win, not to avoid losing. There's an abysmal difference between these two mindsets. Playing not to lose is what keeps you in the friend zone. It's what makes you afraid to take risks. It's what leaves you paralyzed in inaction. Playing to win is taking calculated risks. It's understanding that some defeats are part of the learning process. It's knowing that every no brings you closer to a definitive yes. And here's another secret almost no one applies in real life. The more you practice, the more natural all of this becomes. At first, it might feel strange. It might feel like you're playing a role that isn't yours, but over time, these behaviors become part of who you really are. You no longer need to think every move. Your instinct already knows what to do without your conscious mind interfering. It's like learning to drive. At first, you think about every action: clutch, shift, accelerator, brake. After a while, you do it all automatically while chatting with the passenger. Seduction works the same way. The more you practice the pillars of the system I'm revealing, the more natural they become to the point where you no longer need to think anymore. You simply are this high-value man. Machiavelli wrote, "Men, in general, judge more by their eyes than by their hands, for everyone can see, but few can feel." This means that the perception of power and confidence often matters more than the underlying reality. Audacity projects exactly that perception of power that is magnetically attractive to women at an instinctive level. It's not what you are, but how you are perceived that creates the initial attraction. Now let's talk about something crucial that most overlook: the magnetic touch. This is not about uncontrolled lust. It's not about groping or forcing situations. This is an ancient ritual, a primitive language that transcends words. Touch is humanity's oldest language, older than words, deeper than logic. It bypasses the mind and speaks directly to the subconscious where real decisions are made. But here's the secret that changes everything. She isn't attracted to the touch itself. She is attracted to the way it happens. Its perfect timing, its rhythm, its clear intention. The right touch at the right moment can bind a memory to her body that will last forever. But the wrong touch, the rushed one, the forced one, kills everything instantly. How does it begin then? Not with blind audacity, but with calculated innocence. A light touch on her shoulder as you laugh at something she said. A hand gently guiding her through a door. A slow, playful high five that lingers half a second longer than normal. Moments that feel natural, but leave an indelible mark. You scale not through pressure, but through presence. You touch, and then you withdraw. And that withdrawal is everything. It creates absence, and absence creates longing. This is what most men never understand. The touch isn't about the contact, it's about what happens in the moment after. Because when you touch and stop, her body feels the silence and starts to miss you before you've even left. This is the intermittent touch, the psychological equivalent of a heartbeat. On, off, near, far, safe, dangerous. It builds tension she cannot name. It floods her system with oxytocin and dopamine, the same chemicals released during pleasure and connection. But you're not connecting. You are imprinting yourself on her nervous system like a mark she will never be able to erase. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more natural it seems, the more powerful it becomes. You must not telegraph intention. You must not hesitate. You touch like a man who has done it 1,000 times, not because you are desperate, but because you are centered in yourself. Your hand doesn't ask permission. It reads her reaction. If she leans into you, you know. If she pulls back, you adapt. Because the masculine touch isn't invasive, it's observant. It listens with the skin. And when used correctly, it makes her feel something terribly rare in the modern world. A man who is in control of himself and attuned to her at the same time. That is magnetic. That's what keeps her awake at night. Because long after the words are forgotten, she will remember how you made her feel, not in her mind, in her body. There is one last weapon you must master, one most men don't even think about. Cold reading isn't magic, it's precision. The silent art of reading what she wants before she even knows it. Because every woman leaves subtle signals, not in her words, but in her patterns. The way she dresses, the speed of her voice, the rhythm of her walk, what she posts online, where she goes, what she avoids. You are no longer just a man. You are an emotional detective reading between the lines, tracking the energy behind the words, feeling the signals she doesn't say out loud. A woman who wears flashy, sparkling jewelry is screaming for attention. She wants the spotlight and confirmation that she still has it. A woman in subtle, elegant tones is deeper, more private. She yearns to be understood, not just superficially seen. Observe her manner of speaking. If she speaks fast, gesticulates widely, she is spontaneous, reactive, guided by pure feeling. If she speaks slowly, carefully, she is calculated, guarded, strategic in every move. And when you adjust your energy to match her hidden nature, when you reflect what she truly needs without her asking, you become irresistible because you're not offering what she is consciously demanding. You are offering what she is secretly dying to receive. That is the real power, the understanding that every human being hungers for something they cannot even articulate. But here's the trap most men fall into. They try to do everything instantly. They gorge themselves on techniques, force results, imitate, act, play a script that isn't theirs. But this isn't acting. This is the embodiment of your true masculine nature. So slow down. Start with just one pillar. Apply it for a week until it becomes real, until it's part of you. Then another and another, until the system isn't something you memorize, but something you are. Because this method I'm giving you isn't about becoming someone else. It's about unleashing the true you, the alpha that society buried under years of shame, guilt, and conditioning that made you believe your masculinity was something to apologize for. Wake up once and for all. Time is slipping away while you remain there ruminating, overthinking every possibility. Other men are already using this and getting results while you're still watching, still doubting, still wondering if this really works. Ask yourself, in 5 years, do you want to be in exactly the same place with the same silent frustrations? Watching the woman you wanted in the arms of a man who simply knew how to move? Or do you want to be the man she can't forget? The man who never begs? The man who chooses instead of being chosen? The man who doesn't accept emotional crumbs? The man who creates attraction like clockwork? That choice is yours and always has been. But remember this as if your life depended on it. Knowledge without action is dead. You can consume 100 videos, read 100 books, but if you don't step into the ring, you'll remain trapped in impotent theory forever. In the depths of your being dwells an ancestral seducer who has been silenced by years of conditioning. You feel it now, don't you? That tremor in your gut, that visceral recognition of a truth you always knew but refused to see. The time for excuses is over. The time to be invisible has come to an end. Every minute you spend doubting is a minute another man is applying what you just learned. The difference between the man they desire and the one they ignore is not in his face or his wallet. It's in the decision you make right now. Take this scalpel of knowledge and cut the chains that keep you tied to emotional mediocrity. He who doesn't act, who stands contemplating from the shore, will pay the eternal price of watching life pass by without ever living it. You are part of the tribe now, of the few who have awakened. Comment, I decide my destiny, to seal this pact with yourself. Remember, the magnetic monster is not he who chases, but he who attracts from the silent power of his own truth.